going to introduce our third and final speaker today. His name is Jack Kloppenburg. Jack is Professor Emeritus in the Department of Community and Environmental Sociology at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. Jack's research has involved the study of the social impacts of biotechnology, the emergence of managed grazing networks in Wisconsin's dairy industry, and the reevaluation of local and Indigenous knowledge systems. An organizer as well as an academic, Jack is founder of the REAP Food Group, a nonprofit organization working for a just and sustainable food system. He is perhaps best known for his work on access to and control over plant genetic resources. So lately, Jack is excited about the growing movement for food sovereignty and by the possibilities of applying open source principles in the biosciences. He's the founder of the Open Source Seed Initiative, or OSSI, an organization committed to facilitating vigorous innovation in plant breeding by preserving the right to unencumbered use of shared seeds and their progeny in breeding programs. So Jack is here to tell us more about this work. Jack, thank you very much for joining us.
Cool, Steph. Thank you very much. Yeah, good afternoon, friends. Good afternoon, friends and citizens. I appreciate this opportunity to speak to you and a little bit about the Open Source Seed Initiative, which I've had a lot of fun with and very interesting, and is an effort from some of us to move away from indentured seed, as we call it, you see there on the left, and towards a system that will provide more free, not free, but freed, and the D on the end there, indentured seed. What do we mean by that? That species there is maize. That's a hybrid from Iron seed, which is owned by KWS and Levigar, and it has 32 patents that are applied to that seed there, and 8 stacked GM traits in there. And if you were a farmer licensing that seed, because you don't buy it anymore, you license it, you can't do anything with that seed except to plant it for a one-time use for a crop. Can't save it, can't share it, can't do research on it, can't do anything but plant it. That's how we call it indentured. And what we're after is to free that seed and free the farmer, too, from that indenture. Now, you know, we can't talk about this stuff at all without talking about industry concentration. This is what's driving it all. You may well have seen this really cool graphic from Phil Howard at Michigan State University. Seed industry structure, 96 to 2013. There's Monsanto, there's Syngenta, there's DuPont. There you can hardly read, there's Dow, and there's Levigar, and they're in blue as well. And what we're seeing right now, all those little blue ones are the companies, and the green ones too, then been bought up by Monsanto, Syngenta, DuPont over the last couple of decades. And what we're seeing now, of course, is that Monsanto is looking for a partner. Monsanto and Syngenta wanted to get together. And DuPont and Dow are getting together. The Monsanto and Syngenta deal didn't work, so Monsanto's looking at Syngenta's looking to come together with a Chinese chemical company. Monsanto now is talking about maybe with Bayer. Concentration, consolidation, the concentration of economic power in the seed industry, which translates into intellectual power and political power and scientific power. And of course, what that power has been directed to is technology on the one hand. There's Monsanto owns DeKalb. There's herbicide-resistant seed corn, Roundup Ready, Yield Guard, etc. A very narrow application of a very powerful technology in particular sorts of ways to particular sorts of crops, which in essence reinforces the kind of monocultures that are not sustainable, from which we need to withdraw and shift our directions if that's possible. Not an easy thing to do, given the power of the companies. And of course, another piece of this, with the technology, interrelating with the technology and reinforcing the concentration and the technology are intellectual property rights. PBRs, PBRs, plant breeders' rights, PVPA, plant variety protection in the United States, almost irrelevant now, to tell you the truth. People aren't even using PBRs anymore. They're going to patents. Why? Because there's no farmer exemption. Why? Because there's no research exemption. So nobody does research. You can't do research on DeKalb seed there. And as you Canadians know, there's no Turkish miser standing in the back of his truck with all his files from the lawsuits that he had to go through to fight with Monsanto. Because even though it was adventitious, you might say, blew in and all he did was say what came in, that he's responsible and liable that was Canadian law and U.S. law too. So there's what we are up against in the United States, which is sort of the leading edge of all of this stuff. And what we've talked about a lot is, well, it works this way in France, works that way in Canada. The USA is the leading edge, and what you see, I fear, is all of our, in the U.S., is all of our futures if we don't work, as Ann Slater has been talking about, against UPOB, if we don't work against the companies and against the kind of policies and laws and regulations that they are trying to impose globally through UPOB, because UPOB is not just in the USA, not just Canada, UPOB is global. And what they're doing now is pushing UPOB global, as in fact seed markets in the USA, in Canada, are essentially saturated. They're not saturated, which is to say that you can't sell more seeds to American farmers. You can raise the price, or to Canadian farmers. You can raise the price. You can try and get into those crops like wheat, where people are still saving some seed, where they haven't been able to penetrate. But the real market is in the global south. Now, we're talking a lot about PBRs and IPRs and patents, but let me say one thing, that when it isn't just about patents anymore, it's about contract law, as Ann was saying. What happens when there isn't anywhere to go anymore for a farmer, to a company that's independent, or isn't offering, an alternative variety in seed or in soybean or in canola? You got to go to the concentrated set of companies. So you go, and they say to you, you're here to buy seed. Thank you very much. We don't sell seed anymore. We will license it to you. And the first thing you got to do is sign 2012 there, Monsanto Technology Steward. Even before that, up on the top right there's a form number. You've got to have a number from Monsanto saying you want to license their seed before you even go in to sign the technology stewardship agreement at your local grain elevator, at your local seed dealer. And when you get there, you sign the technology stewardship agreement, which is not a sale of seed. It is a rental of seed. It is, as you see in the green box there, a limited license to use. If you go through that entire agreement, you find that you can't save the seed, you can't replant the seed, you don't share the seed, you don't breed with the seed, you don't do research on the seed. You use it one time solely for planting. And by the way, we will permit access to your land anytime we want to come on. We'll permit access to your records, including your internet records, including your emails. You'll permit access to anything we want to see that will tell us whether or not you saved it or replanted or shared it or breeded it or did anything else with it, including, as I do, using it for educational purposes. I'm in violation, I believe. Now, you may say only for canola producers or corn farmers or cotton farmers or soybean farmers, which are the areas in which the companies are concentrating their efforts, because that's where the money is. But we are now seeing, as the companies realize, hey, vegetables are important too. Let's go that route. As Monsanto picks up Semina seeds, the largest vegetable producer in the world, as other companies get bought up, you begin to see patents bleeding into, or being introduced into vegetables. There's Burpees that's selling a sweet corn. Burpee didn't patent this. This is patented by someone else. Maize sweet corn is patented. You see a consumer notice on there. By purchasing this variety, you're agreeing to use this variety for personal use only and will not offer for resale or breeding. It is for home garden use only. The restrictions are beginning to come in. They may not be legal. They may be. Who knows? We'll have to have a court case to figure that out. But you see there on the lettuce varieties on the right there. That's a little excerpt from the Vitalis current catalog, 2016 catalog. You see down there in the white, Blaine, Letney, Selenet, Tamarino, only a few of the lettuce varieties that they are producing, that they are breeding. You see down there in the white too at the bottom, all Vitalis lettuce varieties are protected under U.S. law. They're all patented. I see Ann was wearing a Johnny's seed catalog cap there at the beginning there. Johnny's offers to Vitalis varieties. They identify them as patented when they know it, but they don't always know it. You got to be watching the catalog. You got to be paying attention. Things are changing. The future in American and Canadian canola producers, American corn producers, Canadian canola producers are experiencing now is the future that the companies intend for everyone growing any crop. PBR, PBPA, what they're after is that there are so few companies out there that you got nowhere to do but to sign the contract when you get to them. Now they're in brief. Well, I got to do. So UPAV is coming under. You don't get it all at once. They've been working on this for 100 years. They work it. They steam it. They introduce it. They politicize it. They make you argue about it. They push back here, but they move forward there. That's what UPAV is all about, but international. A dying breed. Where do we get the alternatives? The dying breed is in a Nature article referring to public sector breeders. Corn is important in the U.S., right? Maize is important. You know how many public breeders there are of field corn? 2. Where do you go for alternatives? There are none. There are some small. There are some small companies that are still out there. They're being picked up by the companies. We need to protect them. Freedom to operate, even if you are a public breeder. There's a privilege, not a right anymore, for farmers to tame and replant. There is a limited opportunity to do some research on plants that are plant variety protected in the U.S. or PBR. But for patented material, there is no research exemption. That means that Julie can't do research on any patented variety without the permission of the patent holder. Freedom to operate is problematic for anybody breeding in an institution or outside of an institution. Where are we going to go? What are we going to do? Well, a bunch of us got together and said, we need a new system. It's like Bernie Sanders says, we need a new system. We're not like Hillary Clinton saying, well, we'll tweak it a little. We'll fix it. We'll simply deal with the bad guys. We need a new system. The software producers have figured out a way to fight against Apple and to fight against who's Bill Gates run? Who am I running my computer on right now? Against Microsoft. They say, we like the code, but we're going to do this. We're going to say, we'll produce some code, but we'll use the same licensing techniques that they do, and we'll say, we'll give you that code on one condition. You can do anything else with the code you want. Share it, save it, rewrite it, but one condition, if you want to use my code to do that stuff, any derivative use, you have to give to anybody that you produce new code for, new software for, the same freedoms that I'm giving to you. Tom Michaels, a Canadian, U.S. Canadian citizen, was at Guelph when he thought this up, University of Minnesota, a general public license for plant germplasm, an open source license. Not public domain, open source copyleft. There's our cool, we formed ourselves into Aussie Open Source Initiative. There's our very cool logo there, and there we are standing around a table in 2012 figuring out that we're going to do this. Public breeders, freelance breeders who are farmers. There's Tom Stearns from High Mowing Seeds there, breeders, indigenous people, global South people. What do we say? After a long time, here's what we boiled it down to. It took us a couple of years to figure out what we were going to do. We don't have the same kind of license that the companies do, or the software people. For various reasons I can explain. If you want, we boiled it down to something that's simple. Here's our pledge. You have the freedom to use these, and these go in any of the Aussie Pledge seeds that you can access or buy, because they're not free, they are freed. You have the freedom to use these Aussie Pledge seeds in any way you choose. Save them, replant them, share them, do anything you want, breed with them. They're free in that sense. In return, you have the obligation, and you pledge, not to restrict others' use of these seeds or their derivatives. You get seeds from us, any derivative you make from that applies the same freedoms that we give you, you give to others. You pledge not to restrict others' use of these seeds or their derivatives by patents or other means. And you include this pledge with a transfer of these seeds or their derivatives. The second clause is really important there, because that makes it viral. It means the pledge goes along with the seed or any derivative or other use, which means that we are creating an alternative space, an alternative set of material, an alternative pool of germplasm that is not public domain into which anybody can come, but is a protected public domain that Monsanto can't access. Because to obtain our seeds, they have to take the pledge. And that they won't do, because like their software, to mix it with their stuff means that they're pulled into our protected commons. And they have written, some of their corn breeders have written, we don't like this. That's just as restrictive as we are. And in a sense, it is. But we are restricting you in one way to give people the freedom to use. Now, and they call in, they say, no, we can't use it. They're too contagious, which is a quote from them. Now, how does this stuff work? How does this work? Is anybody working with us? Yes, here are some of our 29 breeders who are pledging Aussie varieties to us. Up there on the left, in the blue shirt, is my colleague at the University of Wisconsin, Erwin Goldman. Down below him is Carol Duffy in Oregon with Fertile Valley Seeds. There's, in the middle there, Frank Morton. Dude has pledged nearly 200 varieties to us. His entire oeuvre. This dude breeds. How many, he's poking them out. Up in the top left, top right, with the red shirt on is Tom Stearns of High Mowing Seeds. Some of you may be buying from him. And Julie showed his catalog there. A piece off his inner John Sparrow. We have 29 breeders. Very few of them. Some of them are publishers. Public breeders are deeply, powerfully constrained by their location in powerfully compromised institutions. We need those institutions. We got to take them back, but they are powerfully compromised. What I've discovered is that there are farmer breeders out there. There are independent breeders. We've got to support them. What people these variety contributors do is sign a contract with us. They say, I commit, and I sign a contract that with this variety, we don't ask for all of their stuff. They want to, fine. They commit variety by variety. With this variety, I will release it, and we want new varieties. We don't want heirlooms. We don't want to be appropriating other people's seeds. We want new stuff that's being produced now. These breeders commit to releasing their new varieties Aussie pledged and only through Aussie. So the only source is them, not Aussie. We don't own their varieties. We don't. All we do is say we're monitoring the pledge. You pledge them to us. We go to the seed companies. We now have 34 seed company partners. They sign a contract with us too. We say, you want to offer the new varieties from our Aussie affiliated breeders, from Aussie pledged seeds? You sign a contract with Aussie. We don't own the seed, but what we say is, you want to sell the seed in the Aussie pledged varieties, you identify the breeder. You identify Aussie. You identify Aussie in your catalog, on your website, and you agree that if you release these materials, you put the pledge on your website. Hopefully you put the pledge on your seed catalog, on your seed packages as you send them out. You agree to identify the breeder, because we want breeders recognized. We want them ordered. We want people to know who they are. You agree that if you release these materials in reproducible bulk that's likely to be saved and resold, that you make sure that you keep the pledge on there and that it stays viral. What do we ask you to do? Here's Bountiful Seeds. This is in their seed catalog this year. In their hard copy seed catalog, Similar sort of thing, Julie showed it to you on High Mowing's website. A similar thing on Bountiful's website. You see the little OSSI there. That's the way they identify them. Here's the set of Aussie pledge varieties they're offering. There's the open source seed pledge down there, and they're putting the pledge on their packages as they send them out, so that we're reaching out to the market. Why would seed companies do this? Because there is a market for ethical seed, just as there is a market for organic seed. We're hoping and we anticipate that the market will grow if gardeners, if farmers commit to at least in a part of what they do. You know, you don't have to buy all off-the-pledge seeds, but some. Just like you may not be buying all organic food, but some. Build the market. Begin to create an ethical community that Julie was talking about, of people. So we're reaching out. What do we do for those seed companies? What do we do for those breeders? We get to Acres USA. We get into grist. We get on the blogs. We publicize. Aussie's the glue that fits this stuff together and hold a community that we hope to build as an alternative of breeders, farmers, growers, seed companies, consumers, politically aware people who are looking to create, at least in some small part, an alternative. You can go to our website. You can find this stuff. As I say, we are not a seed company. We don't sell any seed. We don't own any seed. We don't tell anybody what to do beyond the contracts that we have with our very simple contracts with our Aussie-affiliated breeders and with the seed companies. You can go to our home. You can learn about us. Talk to our FAQs. Look at the seeds. Look at the seeds that we offer. Go to the companies. We don't sell them. You got to go to the seed company partners. You can get involved. You can contact us. You can donate. OSSEED.org. We're all there. We are, the idea, a shared economy, an alternative, a real alternative, our own space, different from the companies, from which the companies are excluded by their own profit-making objectives. Who are the breeders? Do they have to make a profit? Sure. We don't talk about licensing, and in fact, our license is not the kind of IPR that companies do. We don't tell anybody how to license, but what we do say is that certain types of, we don't call them licenses, we call it benefit sharing, because we do want some return to the breeder. But that's a deal, and that's an arrangement between the breeder and the seed company, and there's no pass-through. It's an arrangement between the breeder and the seed company to provide benefit sharing, which we think is appropriate and deserved, and the ethical seed companies we work with agree. Ethical seed companies provide benefit sharing to the breeders whose seeds they are selling. But that obligation does not transmit to anyone beyond the seed companies themselves. There's no pass-through of royalty. The ideas that we have work in the United States. Largely working, by the way, we have two Canadian seed companies, Hawthorne Farm Organic Seeds in Polisham, Ontario, and Tatiana's Tomato Base in Ardmore, British Columbia. And we're adding a couple of more Canadian seed companies in the not-too-distant future. It works in the U.S. Conditions and socio-political conditions, economic conditions, agronomic conditions, agricultural conditions, the laws vary widely globally. They're a little different in Canada, but you're pretty much like us. Different in the EU, very different in the EU, very different in the global south. Nevertheless, the idea that open source seed systems may work is itself viral. The idea is viral. We are working, you see up in the top left-hand corner, Open Source Seed Systems India. We have a sister organization in India now looking for ways to implement open source principles in an Indian context. You see them below there, free to seed with a T-shirt there. That's at Bingenheim was not good in Germany. And the guy on the far right there is an Agricol working with Kulturzeit, a collective of 35 biodynamic breeders. Julie probably knows them. He's working with them. He's developed a legally defensible license for the EU, which I think you've got to do in the EU for various reasons. The EU is mad bureaucrats up the wazoo. we may object to the PBRs and the IPRs and the patents in the U.S., but we do not operate under the enormously restrictive circumstances that the EU people do, which is another layer of benefit. It's so ironic that in the U.S. we're pushing so hard with our, well, indeed, our bombs as well as our politics to implement, push UPOV 91 to everybody in the world when, and say, take the phytosanitary regulations, register your seed, certify your seed, get the bureaucrats in there. But in the U.S., it's anarchy. The breeders are still there. They can sell anything they breed, and that's what we want to do with them. So, time for food sovereignty, yes. Aussie is, I would like to think, not just a technical or a legal alternative, but is a social movement. And that's what we need to build food sovereignty, free seed for seed sovereignty, no food sovereignty without seed sovereignty. Yes, join us, come join look at our Facebook page, come to our website. We can do this together. The companies, we can get seeds from Julie Dawson, seeds from the University of Wisconsin, seeds from Fertile Valley Seeds, Commonwealth Seed Growers, High Mowing Organic. You don't got to get them from Seminus and Vitalis. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jack. You certainly covered a lot in that presentation. A couple of questions have come in. One from Dwayne, and just as he was typing this, you mentioned this concept of benefit sharing as a way of recognizing plant breeding. Could you expand on that a little bit? What is benefit sharing? And how does
question. Remind me again. What was the question?
How does Aussie support plant breeding? And maybe that has the benefit sharing concept you mentioned.
I covered that, and I went over a whole bunch of things real fast. Aussie is supporting an alternative system in which there are, and I spent most of my career thinking there were only two types of breeders: public university breeders, public institution breeders, and breeders in the companies, Monsanto breeders. What I have found over the last 5 years, which is a joy for me, and it's a lesson in all of us for how you got to get rid of your blinders, and if you only open your eyes, they're there. There are many freelance breeders, farmer breeders, who are out there now in the U.S. Julie knew more of them and knew this about Europe, and anybody who's traveled in the global south, and I don't know how I've forgotten, knew that they were there. But they're here in the United States as well. What we are doing is legitimating them. Public breeders, except for those handful of public breeders like are working in participatory breeding and working in programs to connect them, essentially the freelance breeders are invisible. They don't register the varieties. They sell to small seed companies to very mostly localized places. What Aussie is doing is legitimating them, giving them an opportunity to essentially register their seeds with Aussie. We even essentially provide an analog to intellectual property protection. Because if you only have your variety through Aussie, registered with Aussie, distributed through you to Aussie partners, any other seed company offering those materials has somehow gotten them outside the system. And we can go to them and say, hey, where'd you get that stuff? You shouldn't be offering that. You should become an Aussie partner if you want to do it. And any Aussie partner, seed company partner, has the opportunity, and we would say, we encourage them to work with benefit sharing, to say, I'm selling the seed from these breeders. If I sell it, they ought to be able to get some benefit sharing and arrange to return some financial benefit. So we support that alternative. It is very difficult to do this with public breeders. We are working not because public breeders don't want to, but because public breeders are essentially indentured themselves, you might say, as a condition of their employment with Washington State and or University of Wisconsin. That isn't your material you're working with. That's Wisconsin's material. That's Michigan State's material. That isn't to say that we can't arrange, as we have with Erwin Goldman's carrots, and with is to release them under Aussie. but it takes some work to do.
Okay, great.
You
have described a little bit how you work with plant breeders and seed companies. Genevieve asks, how would it work for farmers to apply an Aussie pledge to a seed?
The reason that we didn't go with a legally defensible license on the owner of software and on the bag tags is because we can write one, and we had our attorneys write one. It runs to 4 pages in language that only a lawyer understands. And we said, God, do we got to do this? And they said, look, you're going to go into court. Every time we take a clause out, you open it up for the opposition. We are not about, in fact, defending our pledge in court. That's a black hole. What I believe, and what I think the rest of my, is that the only way you can actually protect seed, if you're a community or if you're a farmer or a freelancer, is by using the tools of the master. The tools of the master aren't going to dismantle the master's house. What we're after is sharing, and that's the way to do it. That we have an opportunity to show that seed can be shared. We hope to shame people. We may even get a court or something in it, but it's a black hole. You're going to end up paying you can't win that game against the concentrated companies. So don't play it. We write a contract with our breeders saying you release it only with the Aussie pledge. There can't be other versions out there. Only an Aussie version. We write a contract. It's enforceable. Although what we're going to do is just say, okay, you're no longer part of Aussie. That's the way out of this. We're not going to sue anybody. With our seed companies, to say, you put Aussie in the catalog. You identify the Aussie breeders in the catalog. You agree to transmit the pledge with any large quantity of seed that's likely to be reproduced by another seed company or by someone who's going to essentially steal it and say it. So at least they know that there is a pledge and that they are going to be in violation. And indeed, if there is a company that begins to offer outrageous seed, plant an outrageous variety of lettuce than bred by Frank Morton, and then begin selling it, we go to them and say, you shouldn't be doing this, dude. Legally, who knows where that goes? We hope to be and we think that we have ethical seed companies that we're working with. But there's no obligation beyond that. Farmers never have to. Come on, who's going to put that seed packet on everyone? So is it leaky? Potentially, yes. And is every seed company going to put our pledge on every seed packet they send out as Botanical Gardens did? No. Do we care? No. It's the companies that we're worried about. And it is, and they're not going to, you'd be surprised how I think that they all steal from each other already. Julie knows this. They're stealing from each other all the time. They only enforce those things against, in vegetables, when they really got something that's really hot and they don't want to mess around with it. Even the big companies in corn and soybeans, there they do enforce them, but they got so many cross-sites things, and there are so many patents out there that they're not sure either. They're confused. They don't know what to do. Part of that's the reason. That's why they're merging. They can't handle it. So we're not. What we are is in many ways a meme, a social meme. Do we have a reality? Yes, because people are going to be buying ethical seed, and that's what we can do for the breeders and for farmers. Create a market for freed vegetables, freed vegetables produced from freed seed. Can you imagine? Julie's talking about sativa and the open source bread. Yes, there's an increment of value there where you can say this was bred by these people. Support them. Can you imagine going to farmers markets and having a sign saying open source vegetable seed, open source vegetables, produced with vegetables? We're already talking with 2 co-ops to be able to sell Aussie vegetables in California and here in Wisconsin. Forgive me for going on. Other questions?
Jack, that's great. I think that's a pretty thorough answer to Jeremy's question. With that, we're at 6:30 here in Atlantic Canada. That's our time, really. We do try to end our webinars on time, so I think I'll cut the Q&A off here. I want to thank all 3 of you, and Julie and Jack, very sincerely. You've presented us with an incredible wealth of information, and you've given us loads of food for thought, so to speak. So thank you all 3 very much for being part of today's webinar. I also want to thank those of you who took time out of your schedule to join us today. This webinar has been recorded. It will be posted on the website, as I mentioned. Our next webinar is going to be on the International Year of Pulses. Our date and time will be announced at a later point. Seedsecurity.ca is where you can find the updates. So until next time, thanks again, and we'll be talking seeds soon. Thanks, everyone.